Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Media Boat Podcast, your weekly edition on us talking about movies, TV, music, and video games. Not necessarily in that order. My name is Mike. His name is Matt.
My name is Matt. His name is Mike. Thank you for joining us today on this fine October the 10th.
It's a perfect day.
2023.
It's a perfect day. It's 10 out of 10 day, I'd say.
10 out of 10. This is episode 404 or 404 podcast not found, as you have put it.
Yes.
So yeah, let's get rolling right into it. We always start
with the music section. I start the music section with the Billboard and start the Billboard with the Hot 100. And up at the top is Paint the Town Red by Doja Cat. Coming in at 2. Wait, did you listen to this?
Remember, yes, I talked about it last week. I talked about the record last week. But since then, Doja Cat got in some internet hot water, and yet again, reframing the whole reason why I always feel a little weird about her. And yeah, I got a good reminder this week.
The oh yeah moment.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. This is her true colors.
Anyway. At number 2, Snooze by SZA. Mm-hmm. Coming at 3, Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift, because somewhere it is still summer.
Somewhere.
At 4, Fast Car by Luke Combs. And rounding out your top 5, 3D by Jungkook and Jack Harlow. Well, really, it's Jack Harlow.
That's your sole new entry in the top 5 this week. Everything else is more or less just a reshuffling of last time.
As for your albums chart, your Billboard 200 at number 1, One Thing at a Time by Morgan Wallen. Going at 2, Nostalgia by Rod Wave. At 3, Guts by Olivia Rodrigo. At 4, Autumn Variations by Ed Sheeran. And rounding out your top 5, Zach Bryan by Zach Bryan.
Yep, same thing here. One new entry with Ed Sheeran sneaking into the middle of the pack here, but otherwise, same old, same old.
If you didn't like any of those albums, we have new releases, including Good Night, God Bless, I Love You, Delete by Crosses. You're telling me this is Crosses and not
yes.
Plus plus plus.
Plus 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 is Crosses.
Or cross. We also have coming out Paint My Bedroom Black by Holly Humberstone. Performances by Land of Talk. Strays 2 by Margot Price. Formentera 2 by Metric. Set It Off by Offset.
Yes.
Tomorrow's Fire by Squirrel Flower. Johnny by The Drums. Some of It Was True by The Menzingers. Something to Give to Each Other by Troye Sivan. And lastly, Zuma 85 by Ala Loss.
Yep, all over the place this week, but I will be listening to 2 of them. I plan on listening to the Land of Talk record and the Margot Price record, so we will see next week.
Now, if you didn't listen to Strays 1, are you going to be lost with Strays 2? Or will it give like a brief recap in the first 2 minutes of what happened?
Previously on Margot Price. No, I think you'll be fine.
All right, let's get some music news, and we're going to start across the pond, as they like to say over in London.
Do they like to say that?
Well, no, I think Americans like to think that British people say that.
But do they?
No, they don't. They do understand that it is an ocean. But it's American slang, butchering British slang for the sake of making fun of British people, because that's what Americans do.
But anyways, let's talk about some British people.
Yes. Chris Martin. He's British, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Actually, is he? I assume he is.
Yes. I'm going to go with yes.
So, Chris Martin the frontman of Coldplay, and really the band itself, is countersuing the band's former manager, Dave Holmes, for $17 million. As Variety revealed exclusively in August, Dave Holmes originally filed a suit against the Chris Martin fronted band for over 10 million pounds, so $12 million converted, worth of unpaid commission related to their 10th and 11th unreleased studio albums. Holmes, who had managed the band for over 20 years before quietly parting ways last year, filed a claim in London's High Court. In legal letters preceding the lawsuit, Coldplay threatened to file a, quote, significant counterclaim along with any defense. They have now made good on that threat, accusing Dave Holmes of allowing their Music of the Spheres tour to spiral out of control, wherein the band cites a $10 million of the tour money spent on bespoke stage pylons that were unusable and a screen that was too big. They, the band, are seeking $14 million or $17 million, as previously stated, in damages.
So it's really easy to just be like, wait a minute, one of these parties is being petty here, but it's unclear exactly whether that's the case or not, because these are both respectable asks. Like, it seems like that they might actually owe this manager guy something for all the work that he's done. And maybe they do. The band does have some legitimate misgivings with how the tour was handled by management. Like, my favorite part about this is bespoke, like the phrase bespoke stage pylons that were unusable. Can you imagine if you had like these gigantic like things that were built for your tour and you're like, we can't do anything with this. Like, this doesn't do anything.
Right. I mean, that could be why he was let go and why he's now seeking representative damages. But at the same time, is this something that they could have sued against or decided to say, hey, I guess this is a loss, but we'll like keep the bullet in the chamber in case he ever goes for us?
Yeah, it's unclear. I have no idea who to root for here. It both sounds like they both have a case, but big shrug.
Funny
I
enough,
don't know.
I think Dave Holmes has a better case against Coldplay than Coldplay has against Dave Holmes, because it may not necessarily be Dave Holmes who commissioned those bespoke stage pylons.
I want to know more about the pylons. Please, someone, investigative journalists, get out there and find out about these bespoke pylons. I need to know.
We need to know who these pylons belong to.
Anyways. Pylons.
Pylons. Not to be confused with Drake.
No, well, I'm not sure why anyone would mistake Drake for a pylon, but
I don't know. Did you listen to his new album?
Oh, hey, we'll get there. We'll get there. But first, he has tummy trouble.
Yes, because Drake has been on a prolific kick, dropping 3 albums in just over a year, including the aforementioned latest project, For All the Dogs.
All of them.
Which, as we talked about, debuted on Friday. But the rapper, who is about to wrap his It's All a Blur tour with 21 Savage, says he plans to take a break from recording music. Quote, I'm, meaning Drake, probably not going to make music for a little bit. I'm gonna be real with you. I need to focus on my health first and foremost. Drake said on a recent episode of his Sirius XM Table for One radio show. Drake continued, quote, I've been having the craziest problems with my stomach for years. I need to get right. I have a lot of other things I would love to focus on, so I'm going to lock the door on the studio for a little bit. I don't know what a little bit is. Maybe a year or something. maybe a little bit longer. So, for all we know, this album, To All the Dogs, is it To All the Dogs or For All the Dogs?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's For All the Dogs. Maybe I typed it wrong.
Yeah, I believe it's For All the Dogs.
I got it. There. I changed it.
Anyways, for all we know, this album is pretty much Drake's last album. I think we can quote him on that. This is his finale. This is what he's going out on.
No. He'll be back. He's just gonna take some time off. I imagine he'll be back in a year. Just give him like a year's time. Maybe not even that.
I'm sorry. Do you realize how much can change within 1 year? Because
A
I
lot.
do. A
Oh
lot
yeah,
can
for
change
sure.
within a year.
But knowing Drake, though, he's a prolific guy. He can't stop making music. The fact that he has to make a big deal out of this is really telling. It means that there must be something really wrong with him in order to convince him to take a break. The man doesn't take breaks. He's like Shohei Ohtani. And both of them are paying the price for it.
Yes, but you know what's coming up, right? It's
What?
basketball season, and he's going to
Uh-huh.
be courtside for all of those Toronto Raptors games.
There's a big difference, though, between recording music and going courtside to a Raptors game.
Well, he is part owner of the
Yeah,
team,
I'm
so
sure he'll be fine. Anyway,
he has
though,
some strategic maneuvering to parlay
yeah.
into the NBA season as it comes up.
Anyways, I think the real message here is that it'll be good for him to take a break because he has put out a lot of music lately to, let's say, mixed results. And I think maybe some time off to reflect and get healthier and think about maybe what kind of lifestyle decisions have led to stomach issues. Maybe he'll give him some time to come back to himself, figure out what Drake is. Who is Drake?
I think I know the source of his stomach issues.
Hmm.
It's that he keeps putting out 2-hour albums that no one can stomach it, even him.
All right. So I think that's our segue. Let's talk
Yes.
about it. It's for not the cats, not the birds.
Not even the turtles.
It's for all the dogs. So, did you listen to this?
Yes, I got through, let's see here, out of 20 something tracks, 23 tracks, I got through 14 of them.
Wow, you couldn't get into the home stretch.
No, actually, I could have, just time got away from me because this thing is an hour 24 minutes.
Oh, it's long.
It's long.
It's too long. Let's get that ahead of it. Like, I think we've had this to say about the last like 5 Drake records.
They're double albums. Yeah.
It's too long, and there's too many tracks, and there's too many songs that kind of sound the same as other songs, and there's just not a whole lot of point to having this many tracks unless there's something interesting happening at least every few tracks, and it's not the case here.
So
Again,
you didn't like all the featurings?
they're
Like SZA
fine.
jumping in here every there?
I think SZA might be the best part about this whole record,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, because when it's just Drake, you get a lot of Drakiness, and that's the biggest problem I think that this record has. Is as Drake is kind of annoying to be around now. Like I feel like he's fully leaned into this persona of his about how women are nothing to him. All his relationships are transactional. When a woman rejects him, it's about her and not him. And even when they don't reject him and he stays with a woman, um, he's perfect and an angel and he did everything correct. And so they're wrong if they leave him. Just song after song after song of Drake telling us that he's not the problem and that he was the right one in every situation, in every argument, and no one can tell him that he's wrong. It just gets grating after an hour of that, hour 20 of this. And I'm just like, the one moment where it's like, is when on the songs where he has like someone like SZA, like he has somebody to talk back at him to actually correct him. And that's the only moments of fresh air on this whole thing. Also,
Are
Well,
you telling me that the best thing about a Drake album is when
is
Drake
that
is not singing?
when Drake shuts up? Yes.
Yes.
It's like there was a time when the Drake persona was interesting. There was a time where there was a balance between the shit talking Drake and the introspective Drake, the Drake that would actually admit wrongdoing, the Drake that from Take Care, 2011's breakthrough Drake record, where he was actually willing to look into himself and be like, well, maybe I did treat this person wrong. Maybe they'll want me back someday. Kind of, you don't get that Drake anymore. That Drake has largely disappeared, and it's been replaced by this borderline incel Drake, who is just very much about like manliness. And the fact that he called this thing For All the Dogs is exactly what it is. He's talking to his audience, which are young men, impressionable young men who look up to Drake as an idol and are taking notes about how to treat women and how to get women, quote unquote, and how to like endure relationships and like from Drake's songs. I don't think he realizes that he's actually doing young men a disservice by giving them the ostensibly wrong lessons. Like it's worrying to me. I don't
I mean,
know.
he's trying to influence young men to be the dog. It's for all you dogs out there.
I would
But
be
he's not Snoop Dogg.
To paraphrase a joke I saw on Twitter. I'm offended on behalf of dogs.
You
Dogs are
know,
fine. They don't need this. They want to be excluded from this narrative.
it's been 20 years and we've come a long way from changing of the dogs from Who Let the Dogs Out to For All the Dogs.
Truly. Put them back in if this is how they're going to act. Put them back in the house. Don't let them out.
Not until they're potty trained.
To be fair, like, okay, so like putting the content, lyrical content to the side, I have to admit, he almost had me for the first 15 minutes. I think the first handful of songs are actually pretty strong. I think there's some interesting beats happening. Again, he's working with his producer, Noah, aka 40 Shavib. And I think 40's beats are still good. I think he's still a good producer. I think Drake has moments where he can still have a song that sounds good. However, the single, one of the songs with SZA, Slime You Out, is not that great. It's like fine. It's not a highlight. SZA's verse is interesting, but honestly, that's a weird pick for the single of this album. It doesn't really tell you what this album is. But there are highlights here. There are some songs that sound decent, and Drake has moments where he's rapping pretty well. Like there are a lot of times where he's rapping here. I feel like a lot of Drake albums kind of err toward the singing side. This doesn't. This is less of a balance. This is more rapping Drake. I think some people will be pleased by that. Some people who like when he's in that rap mode, they might like that about this record. I will give him this. But it goes back to what I was saying, is like the endurance test of this album is how much you can bear to be around a guy like Drake. So I won't be surprised if a lot of people, even those who used to like him, this is just still too much of a bitter pill to take.
I think even those who used to like him will still find this album to be very whiplash because it is very all over the place. And yes, it does prove that Drake is a chameleon and can sing and rap and like talk his way through just about everything. But does that make him actually good if he's not like honed in on his one issue or one skill? Because from what I was listening to this, it felt like, wait, this sounds like Metro Boomin. Wait, this sounds like The Weeknd album. Wait, this sounds like Bruno Mars and was it Sonic Silk Sonic?
Yeah,
for a minute there.
I think and Bad Bunny, which is funny because then Bad Bunny shows up on the song that sounds like a Bad Bunny song, and you're like, oh, okay. But for a second, I was like, wait, is he just doing Bad Bunny? And then Bad Bunny showed up, and I was like, oh, thank God, at least he's here, because that makes me feel a little better about this whole experiment. And let's just say, Drake, even though you can speak some Spanish, maybe don't. That's my advice. Anyway, so yeah, I think ultimately, yeah, he is cribbing. You're right. He's cribbing from a lot of other artists here. You can tell when he's trying to do like channel somebody else just because it's trendy, which is a bad habit of his. And yeah, it's just a reminder here that like, yeah, Drake just makes Drake albums now. And I think they're just for Drake. Like, I think that he's doing them mostly for himself, and he's really largely forgot about a broader audience. But the thing is it still works, and this will still be your number one record next year, or next week.
I do hate to bring this up, but Taylor Swift also makes songs for Taylor Swift.
But the difference is,
even Olivia Rodrigo makes songs for Olivia Rodrigo.
And I'm not saying they don't, but what I mean by that when I say that is to his detriment. He leans a little too far into it. He needs an editor. He needs a better editor, is what I'm saying. There's just some auteurs, there's just some people who are creatives that need an editor, that need somebody to be there to kind of pull back a little bit of their indulgences. Drake desperately needs this. And like I said, hopefully this little time off will be an introspective moment for him where he gets to reconsider some of this persona. Fingers crossed.
I wonder if we can take his Grammy back, since he's obviously using it as a doorstop.
Well, we'll see. We're actually a month away today of this year's Grammy nominations. Will we see him there? Maybe. Not for this record. This record's ineligible, but
no, but he'll probably sing something from the record to say, hey, remember me for next year.
He's still, apparently this record still proves that he's still bitter about the Best New Artist Grammy. And I'm like, keep Esperanza Spalding out of this.
After all this time.
Anyways, let's move on to our other stories here.
Yes, let's go into video games, where we start with new releases, including a follow-up to a couple weeks back, where Roblox will officially be coming to the PS4 and PS5.
Yes.
We also have Long Gone Days for the piece for everything. You got it, you can play it. Also for everything, something called Wild Card Football.
Football game, I'm guessing.
Yes, but also, is this a card-based game, football game?
Oh my god, I wish, but I doubt it.
Quick, look this up. I'll go through the rest of this.
You go through the rest of this.
Including Forza Motorsport for the PC and Xbox Series X. I believe it's also Game Pass, so it's a Forza game. There's also Total War, Pharaoh for the PC. River City, Rival Showdown for the PC, PS4, and the Switch. That's not to be confused with the Red River Rivalry, which was this past weekend. There's also a Haunted House 2023 remake for everything. You got it, you can play it. Company of Heroes Collection for the Switch. I believe those 3 games for Company of Heroes.
At least 3, yeah.
There's also Lords of the Fallen for the PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. And the big release. If you live in a pineapple under the sea, SpongeBob SquarePants, The Cosmic Shake for the PS5 and Xbox Series X is out this week.
This is not your biggest release. This is actually just a next-gen version of a game that came out last year.
Yeah.
Anyway, I looked up Wildcard Football, and I've got bad news. It is just an arcade football game. It does have the NFLPA license, though, so there are real players in this. It does have cards, but not in the way you're thinking, just for power-ups, just for the arcade-style power-ups. Like one power-up screenshot, it has the quarterback has like a bubble shield around him so no one can sack him, for instance. There's 150 wild cards that you can activate during play.
If you move the truck, you can find the 151st wild card.
Stupid. Anyways,
that's both an aged out joke and yet perfect with that number.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyways, speaking of aging out, or
it's time
finding
to get
new life.
Yep, it's time to get rid of the fat boy. The big boy is,
call it that.
Okay, Mr. Thick is officially getting a trim, as Sony Interactive Entertainment, yes, that's Sony, has officially announced a new, smaller PlayStation 5 model which will be available in both standard and digital editions, much like its bigger, better counterpart. According to Sony, the new PS5 console has been reduced in volume by more than 30% and in weight by 18% and 24% respectively compared to the current model. Available this November in the US, before rolling out elsewhere in the following months, these new PS5 Slim models will come in with 1 terabyte storage for both editions. The new design features 4 separate cover panels, with the top portion in a glossy look, while the bottoms remain in the matte. The recommended retail prices for the new PS5 models are as follows. The PS5 with the Ultra HD Blu-ray disc drive, $500. The PS5 Digital Edition, $450. Now here's a note though. If you happen to get the PS5 Digital Edition, there is, and will be sold separately, an add-on for the HD Blu-ray drive set.
Yes.
So that is not listed here, but that's probably the big news, is that if you buy the digital edition and you have buyer's remorse, you can upgrade your PS5.
Yeah. So this is kind of a culmination of some long-standing rumors over the last couple of years about there being a slimmed down model. A lot of people had said that Sony was focused on the chipset, making the chipset smaller in the PS5, and so people pretty much saw this coming. What this doesn't confirm is whether or not Sony is also secretly working on some sort of pro model in the background that would also take advantage of this external hard drive for price reasons. There's also, the possibility of that happening by the end of the year. But for now, this means that anybody who hasn't bit yet on a PS5 will have some additional options. Or those who want a smaller presence on their shelf can maybe look into this as an option. It feels a little soon for this to me, but maybe that's just because of the time fluctuation we all endured over the last couple of years.
Yeah, because it's been 3 years. So
yeah, it doesn't feel like it. But yeah, not for me, but I'm sure there's somebody out there that's very excited to have like a slimmer, more compact inhale like PlayStation 5. Yeah, did you notice, by the way, it's an inhale, just like the Xbox 360.
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to be bundling this with Spider-Man in the coming holiday season.
It's funny that you say that. They did announce a bundle with the current PS5 that comes with Spider-Man 2.
Yes.
No word on a slim bundle quite yet.
But we will see that as that game comes out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's soon. It's coming up.
Next week, 20th.
Woo. Wait, it comes out on the same day as Mario Wonder?
Wait, is that the 20th or 27th?
I don't know. I know Mario is on the 20th. And the 27th is 1989 Taylor's version.
Right.
So one of those Spider-Man will show up, I guess.
October 20th. Yeah, that's next week.
Wow. Okay. So
that's why I've been seeing a lot more ads for it.
Yeah, look forward to that very soon. But who's not looking forward to too much is everybody involved at Unity.
Yes. So while we've been talking about Unity and their shall we say, less than favorable business model, turns out when you get internet backlash and everyone turning on you, heads gotta roll. And in this case, head, as in the head of Unity, as they've announced that John Riccitiello,
hard C's.
Riccitiello is stepping down as president, CEO, chairman, and board member, effective immediately, which I believe was Thursday.
Yeah.
The former Electronic Arts boss, Riccitiello, joined the engine maker of Unity's board back in 2013 and has led the company since the following year in 2014. His departure comes weeks after the company sparked a backlash from the development community by announcing controversial monetization plans for its popular game engine, which it partially walked back following the outcry, which we have talked about. So this is kind of a follow-up story.
Yeah. And it's very easy to assume, oh, well, somebody at Unity had to take the fall and it ended up being the CEO. It's very easy to say that and can be partially true. But don't get too excited quite yet. Don't think that, oh, well, that if leadership leaves, maybe they'll reformulate this whole concept. Maybe they'll be a little bit more friendly on the developer side. Well, people did some digging, and it turns out that the people directly under John Riccitiello were the brain, like were the people who came up with this obnoxious per install charge thing anyways in the first place. So what was seen as a John Riccitiello style move actually wasn't 100% him. So even if he leaves the company here, you might still see a lot of this weird business energy still at Unity, and stuff like this may keep happening even with John Riccitiello leaving.
Right, because this had to be not just a CEO or president approval, but board of directors letting them know this, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is what we're going to. When they show this monetization plan to the board of directors, they say, hey, we're going to do this. This is how much money we will be making instantly once we get it, once it goes through, and how much money we will be getting in the future, and show that's gross before anyone else says, you know, yes, I like money, but I also like my customers more. And no one in that boardroom spoke up like that.
I mean, yeah, it's gonna be, it's gonna be interesting to see if there are any changes following Riccitiello's exit. But for now, it just looks like he's leaving a company behind again, worse than when he joined, which is a habit of his. You could say the same thing about EA during his reign. So yeah, it's not a good look for John Riccitiello, not a good look still for Unity, and it really does leave the future of the company and its relationship with developers a big question mark still. There's a lot of questions about what will happen in the future with these guys. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Don't let the golden parachute hit him on the way out.
Just imagining that happening. It's just whack. Just like retreat, like coming back into the
retreats back into the sack.
smacking you in the face on the way in. Just whoa. See that. Anyways.
All right. Anyways, have you been playing anything?
No, not really. I said I was gonna try out Disney Speedstorm. I did not have time to do so. Turns out playoff baseball kind of dominates your time when it happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, we'll actually get into some playoff baseball.
We'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, I haven't played a whole lot of games, just watching a lot of games.
Yeah, I've been playing Speedstorm. I mean, because the races are so short, I can get through like the daily stuff within 20 minutes and then just be done with it. Which is gonna be really great once it comes to mobile, because it's like, oh, I don't have to jump on a console to play this. I just 20 minutes real quick, done. And I guess that's kind of the gotcha into it, is that it does do the daily stuff to make you want to come back and play it. Mm-hmm. Even if the daily stuff, it only takes you 2 minutes, it counts as a login of, hey, daily active user, which is what they use to run potential ads, to show people, to show like, hey, this actually works. This is an actual business model that works. Daily active users.
How they get you.
That's how they get you. Not getting me yet. You didn't get my wallet yet. Other than that, yeah. Basically looking forward to Spider-Man coming next week.
Cool. We'll have that and more next week. But in the meantime, let's move out of video games and let's talk about television as we start the second half of the show. And we always start television with the Sports Corner. And in the NFL this week, the number one pick, Bryce Young, has yet to win a game for the Carolina Panthers. How do you think Panthers fans are taking that?
Well, considering that they are the final team to win a game, or to have yet to win a game, I'd say really, really pissed off at the organization, because if we remember, the Carolina Panthers traded this year's number one pick and next year's number one pick to move up to get Bryce Young, which means the Bears get 2 number one picks next year. So even if they stink this year, Bryce Young's not going to get a whole lot of help next year.
No, it's just it's just a bad feeling on top of a bad feeling, because it's like it's got to be tough on him, but also it's got to be tough to be a fan because it's like they invested so much in their future, in this one guy.
Not only that, but it's also tough to see the other rookie quarterbacks that were picked right after him succeed so well in the NFL.
Yeah.
It'd be like, we literally had our choice to pick anyone, and we picked the one guy who can't win us a game.
But is it him or is it the organization? I think that's the question you got to ask.
Well, this isn't like the Washington football team where it is the organization.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it could be because Carolina Panthers were the ones who traded away Christian McCaffrey, and now he's on the current undefeated 49ers, which we don't want to talk about.
That's the thing. It's always the hardest thing to consider, and this is across all sports, is like, is it just this guy just underperforming? Is there too much pressure on them? Is it just performance anxiety? Or is it an organization that's not behind him and he's not giving it his all because he's not being supported? Are there medical questions that we don't know about? Like we see that a lot in baseball, especially with the Angels. Is like, is there stuff that's happening?
Why are you talking like he's Ohtani?
Well, that's the thing, is like when you see stuff like this, it's so easy to just blame it on the guy. But what I'm seeing now, as I'm starting to get into sports in a way that I haven't been into before, it's actually more common that there's no one supporting these people. And once they're put into a better environment and you see them thriving, you're like, oh, that was the problem. It was the environment. It wasn't the athlete. You see it so much that now it's my first assumption, not my second.
Well, see, that's what we all thought about the Bears, and then they came out and like absolutely stomped the oh god, was it Denver that they stomped?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem right. No, whoever they played on Thursday. Well, it was they played the Panthers because they're both 0.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, because they're both 0-0 teams, and someone had to win that game.
Somebody had to win it. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Obviously, the season is not over. I mean, depending on what you believe. Maybe there'll be a silver lining here with Bryce Young that's yet to be seen. But for now, yeah, it's looking dire.
If there's any consolation, the Carolina Panthers are in the NFC South, which is in itself a terrible division. So they could still win.
You just got to win every game from here on out, which could happen.
Yeah, they can just go 10-5 and make the playoffs.
Hey, if the Bears can win, then the Panthers can win. Let's be real.
And if the Bears can win, every team should be able to win.
Exactly. That's my point. Speaking of winning, there were some winners and losers in baseball this week. As I mentioned, the playoffs are continuing. We had the wild card face-offs that we talked about last week. We had winners of all of those series and losers. Unfortunately for Brewers, Rays, Marlins, and Blue Jays fans, they have all been eliminated from contention. Moving on, of course, were the Texas Rangers, the Minnesota Twins, the Philadelphia Phillies, and who's the last team I'm missing?
Ooh.
Oh, right. The Trash Tros.
Yes.
Well, all of them have moved on to the divisional playoffs, which are happening right now as we speak.
Unless you're a Dodger fan, in which case you don't know what game you're watching.
Oh boy. Yeah, we'll talk about Clayton Kershaw, I'm sure, in a second. But for now, yeah, like, so right now, where the matchups stand on the American League side, you have the Rangers in a series against why am I blanking? I did this last week too, where like I know this, but it's for some reason when I actually have to say it, I blank on them.
Baltimore.
Right, exactly. The Orioles. So yes, that is, I believe that's tied. No, that is where is that? I need to just take up these standings.
Texans lead that series 2-0. They play later today.
Yes.
Actually, in like 10 minutes from now, this record from when we're saying this.
Yes.
Houston won earlier today, so now they're up 2-1 in that series.
Yes. Yep. Then tomorrow, the National League matchups pick up which are the Atlanta Braves and the Philadelphia Phillies. That's tied right now 1-1.
Yep.
And then the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers, as you mentioned, which right now Arizona is leading by 2 games. So these are best of 5s. So third game for Arizona will clinch it tomorrow. Or Saturday, sorry. We will see, no, I'm looking ahead tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow.
And then,
if we remember, both Baltimore and Los Angeles had 100+ win seasons.
Yes.
And here they are staring in the face of 2-0 in the division series.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions right now about like what it means that you do see these like teams that had that extra break and the teams that didn't have the extra break and how that affected them in these series.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not that's actually the problem or if there's deeper problems. I mean, again, it's important that when we talk about that Dodgers game, that game 1, what was happening with Clayton Kershaw? I don't know. What was your take on that? Were you watching?
I mean, as soon as I saw that it was like 9-0 in the third, I'm like, are we sure this is the right game? Also of note, on Monday, was it Monday night? No, Sunday night. On Sunday night, when the Texas and Baltimore played their first game, Texas put up 11 runs.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, NFL, Dallas Cowboys put up 10 points.
10 points. Wow. It's a football score.
Yes, it's a football score. But, when you have a baseball team outscoring your football team, sucks to be the football team, doesn't it?
But yeah, you're more familiar with the Dodgers, especially Kershaw, than I am. So do you think this is just a fluke, or do you think that just postseason just isn't his jam?
I don't think it's postseason. I think it's the extra rest, especially for the team, because it's not just all on him. And that goes into what you're saying is this extra rest actually beneficial for these teams? Because the idea is that you win the division early, you hit your 100 games, and then you can kind of rest your players, as we've seen other teams do, like in the NFL, like in the NBA, like in the NHL, where they rest their players those last 2 to 3 games, and then they get an extended break, hopefully to essentially heal them, get better for the playoff runs. But in doing so, you also run that risk of throwing off their groove, throwing off their pace. All of a sudden, does it become too much rest?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, it's the mind games of, I should be doing better than this. I have all this rest. Why am I not doing as good as I think I can? Or at least I should be.
Yeah. And this is a classic problem in baseball. Like throughout the history of the sport, it's just been this balance is really hard to achieve. And there's been rule changes to try to figure out what that balance should be. And it still doesn't feel like we figured it out. And in this new version of the playoffs, which is not, I guess, that new anymore. But yeah, is really showing this season specifically like its weaknesses, which is like schedule is a problem for some of these teams, it turns out, and we're trying to figure out why. But in the end, as it stands right now, I think they are pretty strong matchups. I think the games have been fun to watch, the ones that haven't been all out blowouts. I'm looking at you, Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yes.
But besides that, like they've been fun games and they've been closer than I imagined, especially on the American League side. I don't want the Astros to go ahead, but it looks like they're probably going to. I just hope that maybe when it's all said and done, maybe they get stopped before the World Series happens.
I mean, it will be weird to see 2 AL West teams battling it out to go to the World Series when it's essentially one of the worst divisions because neither team hit 90 wins in the season.
I think it just goes to show you that when there just happen to be Houston and Texas just happen to be teams that when their offense are on, they're the best offenses in the league. Like it happens that they're streaky, as they put it. Whereas like the Rangers, especially, they had that huge skid towards the end of the season out of nowhere. Everybody was like, what happened to this team that was so dominant in the first half? Like, as long as they keep it on, like keep that switch on, like they can really prove people wrong. And that's scary. And the Astros also have that tendency, is like when they're on, they turn the volume all the way up and they're really, really hard to pitch to. And you're seeing that in these series right now. They just can't, like they're all the way on and they just can't be stopped.
Well, and that's what we we saw in this previous series, especially with the Rays, where in the beginning of the season they had that 15-game win streak, and to get eliminated immediately from the playoffs, just be like, what was all that for then?
Yeah.
What is the regular season if not wearing down players just to get to the postseason?
And I do feel bad. It does make me feel bad for the other two teams, because the Orioles and the Twins are proving that they are worth, like, they deserve to be there.
In the to losses.
Yeah. But yeah, they deserve to be there. They proved it. It's just now, it's just unfortunately they're facing teams that are so 50-50, but they're on the good 50 right now. And it sucks that this is just the roll of the dice that they got. The National League matchups are a little more interesting, but the Dodgers have to figure it out to, like, tomorrow, or else they're just completely done.
I know the answer. Throw more money at the problem. That always solves it.
Yeah, I don't think
right,
that's going to
Dodgers
be their
fans.
I mean, to be fair, I don't personally want the Dodgers to win tomorrow, but it'll make for a more interesting series if they do. So I will give them at least win one game, keep it interesting. However, Phillies all the way. Let's go.
All right. Did we talk enough about baseball?
No, never. But we do have to move on. So other sports, NASCAR. We talked about last week that the Roval was imminent. Well, the Roval has happened, and you have four racers who were eliminated at said Roval.
Yep.
You have your some favorites here: Chastain, Keselowski, Wallace, and Kyle Busch.
Yes. Well, man, officially hit the wall in the Roval. Goodbye, Ross Chastain. Goodbye, Brad Keselowski. Goodbye, Bubba Wallace. Now you can go run DoorDash with your car.
Are you sad that there will be no watermelons?
I mean, he'll still race. He just can't win the championship.
Yeah. So
but yeah, and then the last of the Bushes has been eliminated.
The last of the Bushes has been shaved. No more Bush.
Just couldn't make the cut.
Anyway, meanwhile, in the WNBA, the Aces have taken a 1-0 lead over the New York Liberty in their series right now, which is the championship.
Yep, as the Las Vegas Aces try to do what no team has done since 2002, win back-to-back WNBA championships, which, come to think of it, is a stupidly long time, 20 years between back-to-back champions.
It is a long time. But hey, maybe this is it.
That's it's also kind of the level of competition that you don't get. Like, you're not supposed to get back-to-back champions. That's not the way it's supposed to happen. You're supposed to get better to compete with the competition. We've just been so, especially our generation, has just been so comfortable with established dynasties that to not see it happening is an anomaly.
Weird. Yeah. But in this case, it goes to show you that the WNBA, even though it doesn't have as many eyes on it, are pretty balanced, like a pretty well-balanced league that's probably pretty competitive, like you said, and like making interesting championships, interesting playoffs actually happen. This one, less interesting, but it would make it interesting, like if we do have this unique repeat. All right, let's move on. If you've been waiting for hockey season, wait no longer. It's tonight. Puck drops tonight with the #1 draft pick Connor Bedard on the Blackhawks, facing off against future Hall of Famer Sidney Crosby's Penguins and the 2023 champions Las Vegas Golden Knights take on the Seattle Kraken. Your preseason winners, your big successes of the preseason, were the Ottawa Senators, the New Jersey Devils, the Minnesota Wild, and gloat, the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah, they are. Preseason champs.
Hold on to that feeling, because you're going to need it during the actual season.
Preseason is done. Official NHL hockey begins tonight. Puck drops, banners get raised, rings get weighed and dropped through the ice because they're so goddamn expensive and heavy and stupid at this point.
Yeah.
I feel like ever since the Rams won, every team now does the ring within a ring where they take the top off and it's like, oh, it's like a ring, like the stadium within it.
It's a neat idea.
I mean, I was iconic when the Rams did it, and now every team does it. So, like, is it really that interesting now?
I guess so. And so this means that if hockey starts this week, basketball's next week.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
Yep. And then it becomes the greatest week in sports history as
all sports. Yes.
For 1 week, one glorious week at the end of October. All sports are being played at the same time.
I'll look forward to that. Anything else in sports before we move on to television news proper? Even though our first story is kind of a sports story.
I mean, college football continues to happen. As mentioned, Red River Rivalry was this past weekend. College sports continues to be super interesting. These games are so close and so good that you got to have a good way to watch all of them.
Now, how would I go about watching them?
I mean, you got cable if you're going to spend $250 a month on cable, or you can watch streaming services because it seems like every streaming service is now getting into the game of carrying a sports channel.
Yes. So we did talk about this already. This is just, I guess, you're formalizing it with an actual story that you can write down in your little story spreadsheet.
Yeah, because I actually looked back at the story spreadsheet and it's like, did we talk about this?
Because we did talk about it. I brought it up the week I found out about it.
I don't think it was an actual story. I think it was one of our bonus stories. Yeah.
Correct. But let's formally bring people into the fold of Sports on Max, which is a thing that's happening and a thing that I've actually engaged in this week.
Yes.
So Max will now carry the Bleacher Report brand and launched on October 5th at a new charge, and don't worry, you won't have to spend it yet, of $10 a month. No charge will be assessed to any existing Max subscribers until February 29th, which is conveniently for them right before March Madness. Unlike the long-defunct streaming service that used to be called Bleacher Report Live, this new offering will only be available as part of Max. All live games airing on a Warner Brothers Discovery linear network, that would include games on TNT, TBS, and True TV, will be available on Max through this new tier. Max also recently added a CNN hub. Think kind of this defunct CNN Plus in the approach that they're taking here, to its catalog on September 27th, with the Sports Hub added just a week later. So, like I said, I've been using this for the playoff games that air on TBS. I'm happy to report that while it is just an HD feed, they do not give you 4K versions of this. They do give you Dolby Atmos sound. So if that's a thing you can take advantage of, it's there. It doesn't seem to make much of a difference, in my opinion, but it is there and it is available. So if you ever wanted to hear Dolby Atmos Bob Costas, here's your opportunity. But yeah.
See, that's the thing that I thought this was going to be like their own stream of the games, much in the same way that Apple TV Plus does their Friday Night Baseball. It's like their own stream.
It is not.
Yeah, it's not. It's the broadcast,
just the cable broadcast
on the streaming service.
But I do have to say, so far it's been just like watching cable. There's been no technical issues with it at all. Like the ads just play as you'd expect them to. The game just works as you expect it to. It is no different than watching it on TBS, which I've been pretty impressed with. It just works.
Reason we're bringing it up now is because, as mentioned, puck drops tonight, which means the games on TNT will be on Max BR Sports Live as well. NBA, when that happens in 2 weeks, will be streamed on Max as well. Inside the NBA will be streamed as well.
Yeah.
And then, as mentioned, March Madness when it comes around.
I think it's a really neat option for people who want to have alternatives for their sports consumption outside of signing up for a giant cable package that includes these networks. This gives somebody at least an option to have something they already have, which is Max, and add it to this. Now, when it becomes $10 a pop, you're going to have to really think about whether it's something that's that important to you to add that much price. Because if you're already paying for, say, the 4K tier of Max, it's already $20 a month. So you're going from $20 to $30 a month, and then you're really going to have to weigh what you're paying for cable and what you're paying for the streaming. And yeah, it's going to depend. But for now, as a free add-on, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, but that's also why they're going to cut it off right before March Madness.
Yes.
So
thankfully,
you have to pay the
not something I care about. So I'm okay.
That's okay. We have our own March Madness occurring here on the Media Bill podcast.
Indeed, yes.
But one feature that I would love to see them add is picture-in-picture or multi-screen, especially with March Madness coming up. Give me that, and you get my $10 easily. Let me watch multiple games.
Yeah,
at the same time.
I agree. They need to do that. One thing that does that already. So you're probably thinking to yourself, probably like, wait, how is he watching the other playoff games? So I have a workaround. I decided to sign up for a free trial of YouTube TV, and that's getting me all the stuff, including 4K feeds of the Fox games, which has been great. But funny that you mentioned that. YouTube TV has that. You can watch multiple games, and at one point I was watching multiple games in their 2-screen format. So yeah, some of these services are introducing it slowly but surely, and maybe it'll just become standard soon.
The ESPN app used to do that on the PS4, but it's not a feature for the PS5, and I really hate it.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it makes me not want to use the ESPN app, and I hope they fix it.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something. I haven't tried that in MLB TV. I think it might be a thing. I'm really curious about whether that's a thing in League Pass. Have you ever had NBA League Pass?
No, I haven't had any of the League Passes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking into that for reasons. And so yeah, I'll have to look it up. I'll have to see. Anyways,
maybe we just throw more money at the problem. That is Disney.
Yeah, maybe. Well, Disney would love that, because they currently don't have sports on their service, but they do have ESPN Plus as part of their bundle.
What do you mean? But Hulu has live sports.
Some if you get live Hulu. And if you want all of that, unfortunately, you're going to start having to pay more, because that price increase we talked about way back in August, well, it's coming in. Get ready for your wallets to feel pain. Disney Plus is increasing its prices with a new rate of $13.99 per month, set to go in effect on Thursday, October 12th.
Along 2 days from now.
Yes, check your calendars. With price hikes for the Disney-owned streaming services ESPN Plus and Hulu as well. The Disney Plus price increases were announced by CEO Bob Iger in August, and it marks the second time in less than a year that the service has increased the monthly price for its ad-free streaming service. In December of 2022, Disney Plus increased from $7.99 a month to $10.99 per month. Now at $13.99 per month starting Thursday, Disney's streaming service will have nearly doubled in price since this time last year. Hulu, ESPN Plus, and the Hulu Plus Live TV service will all also see, increasing prices as well. The Disney Plus annual subscription will go up from $109.99 per year to $139.99 per year starting October 12th. Hulu Plus Live TV monthly will go up from $82.99 per month to $89.99 per month starting October 12th. PSA, YouTube TV is $10 less than that, in case you were looking for an alternative. ESPN Plus annual subscription was $99.99 a year and will now increase to $109.99 a year starting on Thursday as well. So across the board, everything's going up.
So I took a look at what I've been paying for Disney Plus annual subscription. In total, I've only paid $200 for 4 years. Because I got the initial D23 special for $140 for 3.
Yeah.
And then $70
for the last one.
For last year. And now it's going to go up an additional $60, practically double, to $140 for the year.
You hate to see it.
Yeah, I mean, because I spent $140 for 3 years in 2019, and now you're telling me I only get $140 for 1 year? Shrinkflation much? Where's my money going?
It's brutal, honestly. It's just not fun for anybody. And the saddest part is it's not actually because the service is changing. In most of these cases, the service stays the same. You pay more because they want to see the number go up. And that's really all it is. The growth has stifled. No one is joining fewer people are joining. In fact, they're hemorrhaging users in a lot of cases, especially on Disney Plus. And so this is the only solution that the business people have. Well, raise the price of the people who are here, raise the heat in the oven, because they cannot fathom any
but
other
that's
way.
what they do at the Disney parks right now.
Yeah.
Where they raise the ticket prices. But guess what? People still pay it.
Yeah.
People still go. They're going to raise these prices. People still pay it. People still watch it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how this will affect subscriber numbers. Because you're right about Disney Plus to a certain extent. I think that Disney Plus offers a service that cannot be replicated elsewhere. I'd keep an eye on Hulu and ESPN Plus because their models are getting a little older in the tooth. And I don't think they can convince they can play that game in the same way something like Disney Plus can. It's interesting we have these two stories juxtaposed against each other, because here's Max actually offering something new and Disney Plus not offering anything new and price going up.
As we've talked about, it has been rumored that eventually ESPN Plus and some of the Hulu and live stuff will be folded into Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Maybe this is what we're seeing here, which is the price increase.
Yeah.
Before we see the stuff folded into it.
I honestly, and maybe that's why, but I also thought that maybe the delay of, I thought that stuff would have already happened by now. Right. And I think the reason why it didn't was because the stories we talked about the last couple of weeks about them possibly trying to spin it off, sell it out, like sell it off to another company, the Hulu. And so, yeah, I'm wondering if they've been dragging their feet on doing the big everything in one, because they're hoping to not have that as an asset soon. So maybe we just have to wait till they figure it out for something like that to happen.
I don't know. It's like, what's the bigger number? The lump sum that you get right now, or the annual subscription you get monthly, yearly, over time? Yeah, but if you go this option, you have to keep maintaining it. Whereas this one is a money in the hand, content out of the way. I don't have to deal with this. I just get to go spend. Whereas this, you have to continuously maintain and update servers and content.
Yeah. It's a tricky thing, but yeah, this is not how to keep people on your service. That's all I'm saying. And I think they're going to realize that sooner than later.
Well, what's also not going to keep us on their service is when we watch finales of shows.
I mean, yes and no, unless they get renewed for another season, which at least one of these shows have. Yep. So we watched a couple of things. Why don't you talk about the one that we both didn't watch before we talk about the one that we did?
So this is another Korean game show on Netflix, because Netflix no longer makes their own content. They just steal it from Korea and just puts it on here with dubbed. The Devil's Game or Devil's Plan? Please call it the Devil's Game.
You have Devil's Game written down, so I think that's what it is.
I know. I feel like I should know what it was because I've watched 12 episodes of this. But yeah, the Devil's Game. Before it like gets out of my feet here. It's a Korean based game, much in the same way of like Physical 100 and what's the other one that they did? Squid Game. Much in the same way where they take actual people and put them against each other. This one is 12 people of varying backgrounds, but they all have one thing in common. They're all stupidly smart. And I say stupidly smart because some of these games that they have them play are stupidly complex to the point where you have to be smart in order to win these stupid games. And I think that's the one thing that kept me going and kept me watching was that, okay, what's the angle here? Like, they keep adding rules upon rules upon rules, and it's like these are very complex and very specific rules, and yet there's always one or two players that come out and know how the game works, how to break the game, and how to win it. It was like, oh, it's so confusing, but also that same kind of level of like intrigue where they're pitted against each other, game show style, but also the games they play seem simple, like when they talk about them, but then they add all the rules and complexity, and it kind of gets into the actual like game theory of how to win these games and like what each player's like strategy is in order to win. But man, some of these game rules, they just kept going and going and going. I'm like, is this gonna stop? When's this gonna end? It does feel like a lot.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's those same kind of games, but unlike Squid Game, which was like scripted, not talking about the Squid Game challenge that's gonna come out next month.
Doesn't count. Not real.
Doesn't count. Doesn't count. Not yet. Took the wrong lesson from the show.
Yeah. Clearly.
This one is more of like the high concept games.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all out right now. It's interesting. At least it was interesting enough for me to watch every week. And then as Netflix does with their episodes, leaves you on a cliffhanger, so you want to know what happens next.
Mm-hmm. How's it compared to some of those other ones? Is it like a little bit more interesting, or?
I mean, I found it interesting because one of the guys is from 17, the Korean pop band.
Oh,
which I thought was weird.
Yeah. Sure. Why not?
Yeah. But there's also like actors and then like lawyers, and there's like a kid from Mensa who like got a perfect score on their exam. I was like, yeah, okay, yeah. These are all like just like like smart people and like travel bloggers and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, these are all like well-traveled, like well-rounded people solving these puzzles and riddles and games and stuff. So yeah, it's there. It's kind of fun. I mean, it's at least fun and interesting enough for to like binge in a weekend. All episodes are up right now, so that's The Devil's Game.
All right. The Devil's Game.
All right. Now,
speaking of the devil, though, the devil's in the details, and in this case, the details of a murder.
Oh, see, I thought you were going to go with the devil from M. Night Shyamalan, where a murder was also occurred in an elevator.
Oh, well, if we're talking about murder in an elevator, yes, I guess then you're right. There is something in common here because, yes, this season of Only Murders in the Building, season 3 has ended. We now know why there was a murder in the elevator, how it happened. And yeah, I think that it came across in a pretty well-structured way. I think this season was a good time.
I kind of got hints in the season that I was going to go into a different direction, especially when they brought on both Mel Brooks and Matthew Broderick, and heavily implied that the producers had something to do with this.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. I mean, it's not wrong.
Yeah, it's not entirely wrong,
right?
But also, I think that was like kind of the major hint of like who you should actually be suspect of.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Out of the two major mystery solving series that we just got done watching that kind of aired concurrently with each other, this and the After Party, I thought Only Murders did it better this time. I had a really good time with this season. Of course, yes. Am I already predilected to watch to like stories about theater and musicals? Absolutely. I'm that person. This was made for me. And yeah, it was fun that they brought in a lot of really great guests to be like side characters in this.
I did like the Meryl Streep misdirect.
The Meryl Streep stuff was great. The Paul Rudd stuff was great. The aforementioned Matthew Broderick stuff, brief but good. Yeah, I think that it was all really well cast. I think it was really well done. I liked the balance between storylines here. I liked when they would kind of, take a little break on the main plot and kind of delve more into the character stories. I think it was doing some really interesting things this season that reminded me of when this show is at its best, is when it's not focusing so much on the murder, but focusing about the characters and focusing about like who you actually care, giving you a reason to care about these people, which this season of the After Party didn't do for me. And I think that, yeah, having the comparison of the two, it reminded me of what I'm looking for in something like this. And this had it.
Right. That's what we talked about when we talked about the After Party finale 2 weeks ago, where we liked the characters, but we just we weren't following them as intimately, especially since all of them came from different backgrounds into here. Whereas with Only Murders in the Building, while it did have that same kind of step of new characters with their own backgrounds coming into this story, at least they're all woven into the story with the main characters that we already have. It didn't feel like our main characters were ancillary to the problem, which was the issue with the After Party, is they're just ancillary to the problem.
Right. Yeah, I think that's going to be the thing that this always going to be the strength of this show, is that you do have that interplay where they're always directly involved in the murder, and they're always going to be like either accused of it or somehow intertangled with it and trying to like figure out if they are actually like innocent or not, or if they're involved in some ways. Always fun, and they've nailed it 3 times now. And they've set up an interesting way to do it again in the 4th season, where one of them is actually directly involved in the murder in one way or another. No spoilers there. But I thought they did a pretty good job this season. I enjoyed it overall. And we were kept guessing up until the end.
Up until the second to last episode. And then they tried to give you one last misdirect, but I saw right through that one.
Okay, we didn't. We actually were convinced one way, because we also, in that second to last episode, we're like, okay, well, now it's down to essentially 2 people. And I think they did that. The misdirect worked for us pretty well. So overall, pretty good season in a year that's been dominated by really good stories about murder mysteries.
Yeah, but now we're going to have to wait 3 years for another good round of murder mysteries. Thanks, writer strike.
Unfortunately.
Oh, don't worry. We'll get that later.
Bit of a delay, but we'll get there. Anything else on the TV radar that we want to talk about?
Here, I talked about Ahsoka last week, right? Yeah. Other than that, no.
Alrighty. Well, cool.
No. Gen V is the Boys spinoff on Prime Video. I am going to wait until all episodes are up to fully review it and how it compares to The Boys. It's been dominating my feed of people saying they like it. I'm still skeptical about it because it is deviating from the actual comic books. So we'll see what lessons they actually take from The Boys so that they apply it to Generation V.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll follow up with that next week. In the meantime, let's move on.
That's not next week. That's eventually whenever it ends.
Oh, okay. Well, eventually.
Yes.
In the meantime, cancellations and renewals. Let's do it.
What am I no longer watching?
Paramount Plus has given iCarly, the reboot, an axe after 3 seasons. Fox is killing off Welcome to Flatch after 2 seconds. 2 seconds. 2 seasons.
It does feel like it was on for 2 seconds, though.
Yeah. And one renewal is Castlevania Nocturne. The recently premiered Castlevania series on Netflix is getting a 2nd season.
That first season just aired, so already on to a 2nd one. That's the animated one, right?
Yes, animated Castlevania show,
Yep.
Then we have one death to talk about real quick. Football legend Dick Butkus, age 80. Yes, giggle about his name, but the poor man did pass away this week.
Yes.
He's, of course, a Hall of Fame football player, played for the Chicago Bears, but he did act every once in a while. You have here that he had roles in Hang Time and Johnny Dangerously. Those important cultural touchstones of movies.
Yes, and while you can laugh at his name, you wouldn't be laughing when he sacked you till next Tuesday, because he basically defined what a middle linebacker was, especially for Chicago Bears in the 80s, part of that 1984 Bears offense or defense. That was just the midway terrors. And when you think linebacker, like old school classic linebacker, you think Dick Butkus.
Yeah, and yes, great name.
Great name.
10 out of 10 name.
Yes. He could have gone Richard the entire way. He could have gone Rich, but no, he committed and then knocked you out when you laughed.
Yep. Good combo. All right, let's move on into the last section here, which is movies. And we always start the movies with the weekend box office numbers.
All right. And we have a new number 1.
New number 1, because it's October and people love the spooky. Well, you got the spooky in the form of The Exorcist: The Believer, which premiered to $26 million this week. Number 2, counter programming succeeding yet again. Paw Patrol, the Mighty Movie, made another $11 million. That's at $38 million so far. Number 3, Saw X, Saw 10, still not sure. $7.8 million this week. That's at 32 domestic.
That does mean that Saw Patrol is on parity with each other at both 38 million and 32 million.
Saw Patrol. And then number 4, The Creator with another $6.2 million. That's at 25. And rounding out your top 5, The Blind with $3.2 million at 10 million total domestic. And everything, get out of the way. Only one movie coming out this week.
Movie.
Yeah. Taylor time, everybody. Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour, the film. The concert film, I believe, is the official title.
Yeah.
Is your only new release this week. I will talk about this next week. I've got tickets to see it with me, myself, and I on Saturday morning.
You didn't get anyone else?
I didn't get anyone else.
Oh, man.
I don't know. I might do like a last ditch attempt at like a tweet where I say, if you know me in real life, I have a ticket in Long Beach. I don't know if that's going to work, though. I don't know anybody in real life on Twitter besides
any
you.
IRL.
So, yeah, we'll see if that works. But yeah, as it goes right now, I will be by myself with an empty seat next to me. But
I think you mean a dancing seat next to you.
I mean, I guess if you will. Yes.
You just put up that armrest, you just have all that room to dance now.
Something like that. We'll see.
One seat for your popcorn, one seat for your soda.
Well, it's a 10:30 a.m. Movie, so I'm actually just gonna bring coffee in.
One seat for your popcorn, one seat for your coffee.
Warning popcorn just doesn't seem right. Just seems like a breaking the law of nature or something.
One seat for your coffee, one seat for your Pop-Tart.
Pop-Tarts, ooh, that sounds good. Anyways, let's move on to the movie news this week. Our first story takes us to Sony with a new way to stream their films. They have released a new movie streaming app for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 called Sony Pictures Core. You'll be able to buy and rent movies through the Sony Pictures Core app, formerly known as the Bravia Core, Bravia being their TV brand. Mm-hmm. But there's a decent perk for subscribers of PlayStation Plus Premium and Deluxe. In case you don't know, those are the higher tiers available in select markets of PlayStation Plus. Members will get access to a library of up to 100 ad-free Sony Pictures films at no extra cost to existing PlayStation subscribers of those tiers. Sony says the lineup includes movies such as Looper, Kingsglaive, Final Fantasy 15, Elysium, and Resident Evil Damnation. The library will receive periodic updates, with plans to add some anime content from Crunchyroll. Sony announced this update only a few weeks after it increased the price of the annual PS Plus premium plan from $120 to $160.
So, your $40 goes here, apparently.
I guess so. And honestly, if it's a good lineup of stuff, I might have to check this out because I was planning on canceling this. And now I'm like, well, I should take a look.
Do note, this is only currently for PlayStation Plus Premium subscribers. So you have to pay the $120, $160 to get access to the 100 ad-free Sony films. But also those 100 films, while they are available on the website, are severely limited. Yeah. For example, film Alice would get me to instantly get sign up for this would be the new Spider-Man film. Or should I say, any Spider-Man film.
But no,
because that is locked to Disney Plus right now. Cannot get that anywhere else. So even though Sony owns the rights to Spider-Man, you can buy any Spider-Man film you want for $20 or rent it for $5, but will not be a part of the ad-free Sony Pictures films.
Yeah. It's an interesting offering. I will give them that. It does add another perk to a premium subscription. But yes, you're right. It all hinges on whether there's stuff you actually want to watch on it. It's interesting, though, because Sony does not have their own streaming service at the moment. So this is the closest you get to something like that.
And we've brought that up several times, which is why Sony keeps making deals with the different
Yeah.
studios. Mostly, I think most recently with Netflix to have their first VOD after release.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's also weird that they're calling these 100 ad-free Sony pictures, because that would imply that there is then an
ad ones
ad tier.
I mean, that's what Crackle was, right?
Yeah, but here there is no like ad-supported tier that you can sign up for.
Right. So it's just some of them have ads, some of them don't. You have to check before you click into it.
No, it's not. It's like the PlayStation Collection. Here's the 100 ad-free pictures, and then if you want to use Sony Pictures Core as a place to purchase and rent your movies, you can do that as well.
Okay.
But there is no crossover of, I don't want to pay for this. Can I just watch it with an ad build version with commercial breaks? And that's not possible.
I don't know. It's an interesting option that is like makes the proposition of a premium subscription more interesting than it was. But there's a lot of ifs and there's a lot of questions about whether or not this actually is a valuable service yet.
Like I said, check the list of the 100 films, see if there's stuff on there that you would watch over the course of your year's subscription. And maybe they add better stuff. Maybe they add the Crunchyroll stuff. But for now, it's yet another app for PlayStation only. I want this to be clear too.
Yeah, PlayStation only. So it's pretty narrow audience there. But
yes. But also if you have a Bravia TV and use Bravia Core, it will change over to Sony Pictures Core and update.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, cool. In the meantime, let's move on to our second story, which is, hey, maybe we will see more stuff, more movies, more television shows, because, hey, the writers can write again. Like we reported last week, a tentative agreement was signed, and they were going to move forward with writing again, whether it be your television writers' rooms or your screenwriters. Well, good news, that membership has ratified its contract, bringing a final end to the strike that lasted for nearly 5 months. After a week of voting, a vast majority of the WGA membership cast their ballot in favor of ratifying the 3-year minimum basic agreement. Some 8,525 valid votes, or 99% of WGA members, were cast by members of the 11,000-strong Writers Guild of America West and Writers Guild of America East, which, with major strides for scribes in terms of AI guardrails, residuals, writers' room staffing, and data transparency, as well as pay hikes. The now sealed deal runs from September 25th, 2023 to May 31st, 2026. Quote, now it's time for the AMPTP to put the rest of the town back to work by negotiating a fair contract with our SAG-AFTRA siblings, who have supported writers throughout our negotiations. That's the WGA East chief. Quote, until the studios make a deal that addresses the needs of performers, WGA members will be on the picket lines, walking side by side with SAG-AFTRA in solidarity. So this just confirms that the deal that looked good is the one they're going with and will be the deal in place for 3 years.
Yep. It's also the one that was supported by the board members before it went to the members to vote on. And they came out, all of them came out in support saying, we got what we wanted. This is the deal. They gave out the bullet points. And as you can see, 99% say yes. Thank you for giving us what we wanted.
That's a success.
Yep. And that's why unions like these go and fight and work, and you get what you want from these studios.
So yeah, we'll just say the same thing we said last week, which is like, hey, this gives hopefully the SAG-AFTRA talks an advantage, because now they have something to work on. They have a template, and hopefully they'll get similar benefits to the ones that the WGA got. Hopefully this streamlines the process and we hear success from SAG-AFTRA sooner than later. As of today, I believe there's no news about any movement, but maybe soon.
I'm trying to see if there's any actual news, any updates, and I don't see anything.
Yeah, I don't think so.
There's actually a story of a producer's petition to drop the final P from AMPTP.
Yeah. That'd be funny.
Yes.
But anyway.
But anyways, yeah, okay, here we go. SAG-AFTRA Studios will resume talks tomorrow. So they've already had a week of talks already, and they're just going to resume it tomorrow.
So we'll see. Ultimately, well, we hope that they figure it out soon, so that way everything gets back to moving around like normal.
Yep.
So we'll see. All right, that'll do it for movie news. You watched a movie?
I watched a movie?
You watched a movie.
Yes. I watched the Will Ferrell Jamie Foxx comedy Strays about the dogs.
Yes, this is the raunchy dog comedy that has a wild ass cast and makes you want to hear dogs swear. What's going on here? What is Strays about?
So it's weird that that is the angle that they went for with when promoting this film.
Mm-hmm.
Is that here's celebrities voicing dogs,
Yeah.
and wacky like R-rated hijinks ensue.
Uh-huh.
Because the actual story of this is a lot deeper than that, and I was shocked.
Huh.
It is actually about a toxic relationship and how to identify one and how to get out of it, which is not what I was going for.
Not what I
Not what I was expecting
either.
going in
Yeah,
this thing.
no.
I mean, this is produced by Phil Lord and Chris Miller's production company,
Uh-huh.
in the same way that Cocaine Bear was also produced by them. But so they're not writers, they're not directors on this. They just probably produce it. Probably give a lot of notes because this has their kind of humor well within this. So I really liked this more than I thought I would. But at the same time, the actual concept is more of like a very college humor sketch gone on for 100 minutes.
Yeah.
That being said, even though that's the basic concept of talking dogs in a homeward bound-esque scenario to get back home in order to fetch, return the ball.
Yeah.
Basically, you're playing fetch with the Will Ferrell dog, but over the course, he comes to realize that, hey, talking to these other strays, maybe the relationship that I have with my owner isn't as wonderful and rose-colored as lovely as I think it is.
Huh.
So it delves a lot into kind of like these parasocial relationships that not only people have with their dogs, but also that relationships of like how to recognize an abusive relationship, how to recognize when you're not being treated on an equal level, when you need to say get away from that relationship, when you say need to assert your doggy dominance on an abusive owner, and go and find your own life, find what makes you happy if you're not in a relationship that makes you happy. And even if you are something that makes you think you're happy, that you may think is happy, it may not be when viewed from outside lenses. It's got this really, really weird, like high level concept of abusive relationships, but told with animals and humans. But then on top of that, it's covered with the, as you expect, talking dog jokes, dogs getting high jokes, dogs getting erection jokes, dogs humping everything jokes.
So do you think that it manages to maintain that balance where it's not overwhelmingly like just raunch comedy?
It does a good balance because it does volley back and forth between comedy that we have to get out of this hijinks to like dealing with these kind of like deeper emotional levels that I was not expecting out of this movie.
Yeah. Huh. Okay.
But I will say that like the first 10 minutes, when Will Ferrell's character is explaining fetch and fuck as the game that they play, kind of sold me on like, okay, maybe this is something that I'm interested in.
That's what did it?
Yeah. I will say that about the halfway part when it does get to the dog erection jokes, I was like, okay, maybe this is too much. And then thankfully there's like only about 20 minutes left. So I was like, okay, I'll get through the rest of this.
How's the dog like the dog's talking animation stuff? Is it distracting?
It is distracting. It's
Yeah.
rough. Pun intended.
Pun intended.
But at least they do have a narration dog joke too. So that was kind of funny. It does have moments. It does have kind of good laughs and chuckles, and especially at the genre of talking dogs or dogs and like dogs and people's like film relationships as we've seen, a la like A Dog's Purpose, Marley and Me, Homeward Bound, as mentioned before. So it does delve into kind of like that kind of psyche. Is like, hey, maybe those aren't like those relationships that you think they are, when actual like human dog relationships are very can be very one-sided and very mean and spirited and weird, and yeah.
Okay.
So I'd say it's actually worth checking out. It's on Peacock right now. I think I'm probably glad I didn't spend money on it, but at the same time, I'm also kind of glad that I did kind of watch it. So
yeah.
But yeah, Will Forte is the human, if that is going to sway you in any way.
No.
But it does pull into the Lord Miller, Will Forte kind of projects, though.
Fair enough.
Because he always shows up for them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That was Strays. Did you watch anything?
No, but like you said, I'll see Taylor on Saturday morning, so I'll be able to talk about the concert film next week.
Yes, the pick that is outpacing both Barbie and Spider-Man No Way Home in terms of ticket sales.
Yeah, if that is the biggest box office success of 2023, I just don't know what to believe anymore. That'd be wild.
All right, so under $100 million.
I think it's already over, right? Because I saw a headline today that was pre-sales are already at 100. So you need to kick that number up a little bit.
All right, 150.
You know what? What the heck? I'll take the over.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going for it.
All right, you're going for it. And while you do that, we will go on to the next episode.
Yes, that will do it for this edition of the Media Boat Podcast. Thank you for watching or listening, or however you enjoy the podcast on a week-to-week basis. If you want to watch us in video form, you can do so on YouTube. Search youtube.com for our Media Boat Podcast name, and you'll find our channel. You can like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications when we add new videos. You can also find us in audio form on podcast services such as Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to podcasts in audio form. You can find us just by searching Media Boat Podcast. You can find us on social media platforms like the artist formerly known as Twitter, at Media Boat Cast is our handle there. Facebook, you can search Media Boat Podcast to find us there as well. Twitch.tv/MediaBoat is where you'll find us occasionally playing video games. And lastly, but definitely not least, MediaBoatPodcast.com is where you can see an archive of our shows, as well as some writing that we've done this year. And yes, if you want to ask us any questions, need feedback on something, have something to say about the show in general, any of the above, you can email us at mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com, and we might even read that email on the air here. So email us, let us know what you're thinking, give us any questions, and we'll see you guys next week for another episode full of stuff.
We'll be back with more news, more thoughts, more of us, thoughts on your thoughts on Taylor Swift, and music thoughts as well.
Yeah, so stuff.
Yep.
Look forward to it.
We'll be back next week.
See you guys.
Okay,
next
bye.
time. Bye.